into the afternoon of day 2 of the 2024 AGI Ghana Industrial Summit and Exhibition. And my name is Kafui Day, and we're going straight into the European Union session. And the theme is promoting industrial development and digitalization of the Ghanaian agribusiness sector, challenges and opportunities. There are going to be a couple of presentation, round table panel discussion, and the moderator for this session is Leanne Debasompia, who I meet only once a year. Events like this. Leanne, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kafui, and I hope nobody's too tired after the jollof rice that everybody enjoyed a short while ago. So we're hoping that our speakers are going to come with a lot of energy and that we'll be able to really get you up and those ideas in your heads up and running this afternoon. As Kafui rightly said, we have a very exciting program on the cards for you today. We have a presentation by Dr. Rose Omari from the Center for Scientific and Industrial Research. She will doing a very interesting presentation on the digitalization of the agribusiness sector. Thereafter, we have a very interesting array of panelists. 6 panelists will join me on stage, and we're going to be speaking to them about various aspects of the digitalization and industrialization of the agribusiness sector. We're going to be looking at the challenges, opportunities, and we're looking at real examples that we can either learn from or that we can start to produce in Ghana. I would like to again thank you on behalf of the European Union delegation in Accra for this opportunity today. My name is Leanne Debasompia. I will be your moderator this afternoon, and of course there will be some time for you to ask questions at the end, so please do keep those questions, do take a note of them, and when we do open for questions at the end of the session, we would like to invite you to pose those questions. But for now, I would like to hand over to Dr. Rose Omari from the Center for Scientific and Industrial Research.
Thank you very much. Let me just correct that I'm from the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, not Center. Okay. Yeah, so I'll be making a presentation. It's basically on research that we have done. And I will first start by talking about the CSIR. So the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research is one of the foremost research institutions established in 1968 to conduct research on science and technology issues. So we are to implement government policies on science, on scientific research and development. We are to coordinate research and development activities in the CSIR and other science and technology institutions nationwide. We are also to assist the government in the formulation of science and technology policies for national development and to commercialize appropriate technologies in partnership with the private sector and other stakeholders. And we are also to encourage scientific and industrial research for the development of the agriculture, health, medicine, environment, technology, and other services sector of the country. So I am coming from the, So the CSIR has 13 institutes. There are many of them. We have the food research, water research, animal research, and so on. And I am coming from the Science and Technology Policy Research Institute, which is also one of the 13 institutes of the CSIR. And our mandate is to conduct policy research to provide evidence for the formulation, implementation, and evaluation of science, technology, and innovation-related policies and programs. So the focus for us is science, technology, and innovation. So we've been doing a lot. We are also supposed to be popularizing STI, science, technology, and innovation, and also ensuring or promoting adoption of these science and technologies. Then, so in doing this, we collaborate with a number of institutions. So it is out of those collaborations that I'm here to present to you some of our research work that we have done. So I'm going to be talking about our research on digitalization. And the first work that we did was to assess the readiness of, sorry, I think I've moved faster. Okay. Wow. Yeah. So this is the outline of my presentation. So I will give a background of some of the research that we had done previously, and then focus on the current research that is being funded by the European Commission. So I'll talk about the findings and then give some conclusions and recommendations. So the previous work that we did was to look at Ghana's readiness for digitalization in the agriculture sector. So we look at the policy environment, we look at the infrastructure that we have to be able to, go into the digitalization in the agriculture sector. Then we realized that there were some key factors that are really making it possible for us, or that confirm our readiness. And these factors were the policy environment that we have, the regulatory environment, the investment by both private and public sector. There are a number of financial incentives and other various support systems that were available that was promoting or facilitating digitalization. Then we also look at the agriculture or ICT for agriculture services that we have in the country. And we realized that there were many of them available. And at that time, this study was done somewhere in 2018. We realized that many of the agriculture services were available. They were providing extension services, financial services. They were doing data capture and a whole lot. Then we realized that most of these services were mostly supply driven. Rather, it's not the farmers who were demanding these services, but the developers were developing and providing them to the farmers. Because of that, the uptake of these technologies were very low. So the developers complained about the low adoption of their technologies. The farmers were not willing to pay for the services. And also there was limited incentives on their part to even scale up, because they were really not making any financial gain from these technologies. So then we came up with the recommendation that there's a need for us to have supportive policies in place and also provide incentives for these technology developers. Then we also had another study where we look at the use of these technologies. Having realized that we have several technologies available, we wanted to know which of these are being used in the agricultural sector. So we look at the agricultural intermediaries, that is the extension officers. We look at the input dealers, output dealers, and then we realize that they are really making use of these technologies, especially the mobile phone at that time was highly being used for various purposes. Then, so we realized that the ICT was facilitating information sharing among the agricultural intermediaries. It was also facilitating networking among them. And then it was also reducing transaction costs for them, because instead of maybe traveling somewhere, you could just call and get your order and so on and so forth. So we concluded by saying that there is a lot of opportunities that the service provider can take advantage of, because there are people out there who want to use these services. So the current study that we did focused only on farmers. The previous one, we didn't focus on farmers, but this one, we focus only on farmers because most of the technologies were targeted at farmers. So we wanted to know which of the available technologies were farmers using and how is it benefiting them in their farming operations. And then what are their constraints and the enablers. And then we came up with recommendations. And this study was the one that was funded by European Commission. And we used a number of approaches. We needed to generate the evidence to be able to influence the existing policies. And the evidence that we generate, we will now discuss the evidence with policymakers, with those who are developing the digital technologies. And then at the end of the day, we'll co-create recommendations. So all the recommendations I'm going to present here are not only coming from us as researchers, but together with those who are in this sector. So we had a number of activities before we got to where we are now. We had an inception workshop, stakeholder identification and mapping, a whole lot of activities. And then finally, we had a policy dialogue, I think about 2 weeks ago, and that was very successful. So, to be able to gather a lot of information, we had to do a survey. It was a nationwide survey. We went to almost all the regions. We looked at all the agroecological zones. We interviewed 1,040 farmers to really know their level of use of digital technologies. This thing is not moving the way. Yeah, so we interviewed 70% of them were men and 30% women. And then we realized that the farmers are using various types of devices. The mobile phone was highly being used. Look here, it will be better. Yeah, I think it's better this way. I was struggling to. Yeah. So we have the feature phone, the basic phone, the satellite phone, the smartphone. These are all being used. 98% of the farmers were using at least one of these type of phones. So these are all the various devices for lighting control, smartphones, GPS. All these were available. We found them with the farmers in the field. No, here rather. Okay. Yeah, so these are the ICT tools that were being used. You notice that radio is still highly used. Then television is also highly used by the farmers. Then when it comes to the phones, you see that many more women than men are still using the basic phone. And with the basic phone, there's a limit to what you can use it for. There are many of the services that you cannot access with a basic phone because you don't have internet access. So the other ones like the drones, the sensors, they are minimally used by the farmers. Then we also look at small scale, medium scale, and large scale farmers. You can also see there's also disparity in the way they use it. You see that the large scale farmers, they use almost all the devices, more than the medium and small scale farmers. Then we also wanted to know, because mobile phone is the one they use most often, which of the functions of the mobile phones can they perform? So in order of decreasing order, you can see they can receive a phone, many of them, over 97%, but other things like completing an online phone, using an email, connecting to a Wi-Fi, these are things that many of the farmers cannot do. And it is also because most of them are also not highly educated, so they cannot even read, and so on and so forth. So they have the mobile phone all right, but there are certain things they cannot do with the mobile phone. So in terms of the digital services, as we can see here, extension service is highly used by the farmers. That is the services that they readily access with all these devices. Farm automation is limiting, and then storage and warehousing technology, traceability, financial services, all these are available, but they are minimally used by the farmers. Then we also realize that because the digital services providers have difficulty with farmers using their technologies, they have also adopted other means of reaching the farmers. So they use what we call the digital platforms. So the platforms have emerged as an approach of increasing uptake of all the various services that are available. So some of them are just WhatsApp platform. Some of them, they will be sending you, they'll put them in a platform where they will be disseminating information through SMS, voice message, recorded voice messages and all that. Okay. I think I have to point it here. Yeah. So, for example, we have Isoko. Isoko is one of them that uses these platforms. We have Farmer Global. We have the CSIR. The Quafo platform, for example, provides a platform where farmers advertise their produce. You can go there, you can get their phone numbers, you call them, and then they deliver your products for you. And then we have Farm Radio. Farm Radio is combining radio with web-based applications where you can call into a radio station, all your questions will be taken, and then after a while you can get a response and all that. So they are using very innovative way of combining the digital technologies with radio. And radio is also widely used, so this is very, very innovative and useful. So in terms of benefits, these technologies are readily available, but their use is also very difficult for the farmers. But we realize that in terms of smartphones, they are using them, devices like GPS and so on, are assisting the farmers to monitor and manage their agricultural activities. Then we have, so according to the farmers, it is making some of the operations easier for them, but there are also some complexities because of the level of illiteracy and all that. Yeah, so the tools are helping them to reduce transaction costs. I talk about now we have the farmer to extension ratio is very, very high. So you have so many farmers who have access to maybe only one extension officer. So because of these technologies, even if without the extension agent, they still have access to extension services through the mobile phone and other means. And most of them use it also for weather information in particular. So cumulatively, the farmers noted that the use of digital technology has enhanced their productivity at the production stage. Then even at the market, it's also helping them to network with their suppliers. And even for those who even are buying goods from them, there's that network, easy communication. There is easy way of making payments. There is interaction, high interaction now. Even with the extension officers, they interact with them better than it used to be. Then in terms of marketing, they are also is improving their access to markets. They are able to get prices. Isoko, for example, will provide price information of goods to the farmers. So they know which market you can get cheaper products to buy at what time. So digital technologies is doing a lot. It's enabling delivery of extension services, market information and linkages, weather forecasts has been enhanced, farm and field data collection has become easier, and then there's provision of accurate decision-making information, even to financial services. It is helping them in traceability and so on and so forth. But there are also, so in terms of the platforms, it's also helping them because farmers have easy access to information that is very valuable. When they need weather information at critical time, they are able to get it. It's helping them improve their harvest scheduling. If they tell you it will rain, it will be raining, then you know whether you should go and harvest or not, whether you should go and spray your farm with agrochemicals or not, because you know that it is going to rain. So all this information is helping the farmers. But there are barriers, and one of the first one is the inadequate education and language barriers. So most of these platforms, the information provided could be a text message in English, which the farmers may not be able to read. Some of the voice recorded messages are also could be in a language that the farmers may not understand. And the service providers will also tell you they can also not speak all the Ghanaian languages, meaning that they have to have agents in all the regions in order to be able to speak the local language. And there's high cost of these services. There are hidden costs where they will tell you the services is free, but you need to be able to buy data to access this information. You need to have space on your phone to be able to even store the data on your phone. And all these are hidden costs that the farmers complain about. And lack of network, unreliable network, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So technological gaps and support challenges. The farmers, you realize that most of the service providers focus only on crops, those who are producing crops. And we heard earlier on the issue about milk production in Ghana. So if we really want to develop our milk sector, for example, then we need to extend some of these services to the livestock sector, poultry sector, and so on and so forth. Then platform reliability and usability. You know, some of the farmers are on several platforms, and they keep on getting conflicting information. One platform will say it will rain, another platform will say it will not rain. So all these things are making them not to trust some of these platforms. Yeah, so I've talked about language barrier. Then resistance to digital services. According to the technology service providers, you know, people always think that anything digital is already expensive. So they do not even open up for them to even, for them to receive the information or to even know about the benefits of these technologies. As soon as you mention it to them, they are already thinking about the cost. But sometimes it is not too expensive, especially if you look at the benefits, if you do cost-benefit analysis. Then the farmers. So what is it that will enable the farmers to be willing to use this technology? The first one is data protection and cybersecurity issues, because these are some of the things they are concerned about. And we all know about the internet fraud, mobile money fraud, and all those things. The farmers are always skeptical about this. There are issues about trust. If we can improve all these things, the service, the quality of the service, if we can expand the service, the scope of the service, and also create awareness and more education, the farmers will be willing to uptake these technologies. Then there is also issue about the pricing and all that. So the digital service providers are also calling for partnership between other private sector or public sector so that it will be able to reduce the cost of the services for the farmers. They also call for more research, collaboration with researchers, because they are also saying that they think the researchers have the up-to-date technologies that may be useful for the farmers. So if they can have that collaboration with the researchers, then it will also be very useful. And also, yeah, it is also important to consider what the farmer prefers. Sometimes the farmer, they don't need all the information throughout the year. It's only a certain critical time. So you need to be able to time it and give them the information at that particular time. if they are not maybe planting or sowing, they may probably not need information about the weather. So by you are forcing them to pay for that service when they don't need it at that particular time. So the issue about communication is also very important. So the other enablers are the policies. We have so many of them that have been able to help us improve the ICT environment in Ghana. We have a number of legislations which are very good and helping us. These are just a few examples that I talk about. For example, the rural development policy actually help us to prioritize rural digitalization. And we know the farmers, most of them are also in the rural areas. Then we have a lot of public-private investment. We know how the telcos have done a lot of investment in all this ICT area. The government is also investing. There are several projects. The e-transform project is currently ongoing and it's also doing a lot. We have a lot of innovation spaces. Several innovation hubs have been established, especially for startups, and all this is helping us a lot. There are a number of incentives as well. If you go to the Ghana Investment Promotion Council, you'll be able to know some of these incentives that most startups do not know about. Yeah, so there are also a number of actors that are interested in this digitalization space. So this is a stakeholder network that we did. These are all how the actors are connected within the digitalization space. I'll not go detail into it, but if you want more information, we can talk about it later. Which actors are more influential and all that. We have all these results. Then, in terms of factors that are improving access to ICT by the user, we know the Ghana Investment Fund for Electronic Communications, the GIFEC, has also been doing a lot to bridge the rural-urban divide by extending internet connectivity and all that to various areas. We have very good innovative pricing, especially for the young ones. They know when to make calls because they know when it is cheaper. The midnight bundles and all those are making it easy for people to access these ICT services. Then we also have the Consumer Protection Bill. I know the NCA has been penalizing some telcos for violating all these laws. Then we have data protection law. There's also a lot of e-skills development activities going on, a lot of education training, especially for young girls and all that. Then for the agricultural sector, the opportunities are there because we have many problems. Climate change issues, we need to address this issue. We have pests and diseases. How can we use ICT to even detect the presence of a particular pest and all those things? Inadequate access to extension services. That is why these tools will be able to help at traceability issues. We need to improve our quality. We need to also target youth and women. And then there's opportunity for collaboration. There's also funding support. There are a lot of proposals, call for proposals and all that. So, in conclusion, we'll say that there are several digital devices and tools that are available in Ghana. We found out that radio, television, mobile phones are among the most widely used devices. Some of these devices are directly used by the farmers, especially the mobile phones, but there are others that are used by the service providers to provide services to the farmers. Example, the drones. A farmer may not have the drone, but a service provider can use the drone to maybe spray agrochemicals on a farm for a farmer. Then the use of digital technologies has benefited farmers in several ways. Example, in improving access to timely information, getting weather information at critical times, and also reducing transaction costs. So we have recommendations for different categories of people. I'm not sure if we have digital service providers here, But for them, looking at all that we did, these were co-created together with the digital technologies. They are saying that they need to implement flexible financing option. They need to establish clear financing paths for the farmers. They need to design user-friendly technology. Some of them are very difficult. There are some of the weather apps. You need to go and maybe click and select your location, and it's so complicated for some of the farmers to do all that. Then we need to promote data sharing and collaboration, especially among the service providers themselves. And then foster collaboration. There's the need to outsource to regional field officers, especially where the service provider cannot speak the local language. Then a lot of education is needed. And also the introduction of bundled services, so that when the farmer is paying for a particular, it's not only one service that the farmer is paying for. It should be a holistic kind of thing. Then for donors, government, investors, and all that, to be able to improve digitalization in agriculture, we need to develop policies to lower the operational costs. We need to establish and enforce the standards that we have. Reducing the tax burden. We know now the tax is very high, even for the farmers. If you have to pay all kinds of tasks, you know how it will deter them from using these technologies. Collaboration with media is very key. In fact, when we did the net mapping, you realize that communication and education is so weak. So we need to strengthen that education using the media. Targeted training is very important. And investment in ICT infrastructure. And investment in infrastructure that will also be affordable and easy to use. Then for the farmers and agribusinesses who are maybe gathered here, we need to encourage experience sharing. When we met with the farmers, some of the farmers are really using, very sophisticated technologies and all that. So there's a need to share these experiences among themselves. We need to do awareness creation about this digital technology. The farmers do not know about them. So we need to create that awareness and let them know what they can do for them, how they can benefit from them. And then we need to advocate for accessible pricing structures. And then we need to invest. We ourselves, we the industry players, we also need to invest in technologies to improve precision, accuracy, and all that, to improve quality and safety of our products, traceability, improve efficiency, and also data management. Yeah, so this is just a summary of the recommendations. We need education, training, and awareness about the digital technologies that are relevant to the agriculture sector or the agribusiness sector. We need to provide financial support and incentives. We need to enhance accessibility, affordability, and infrastructure, and also infrastructure development. We need to update and implement government policies and regulations. Then research and development is also very important. If we know how the digital sector is changing. It's rapidly changing. New things are coming out all the time. So if we are not doing any research, we will remain behind. So we also need to invest in research and encourage innovation in digitalization space. So these are just links to some of our knowledge products. So I'm coming from the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, so I thank everyone there, my director, and all my colleagues who work on this project. And then this project had financial support from the European Commission, and we had it through OACPS, Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States. Yeah, then we have ICPE, which is based in Nairobi. Then, and this whole thing is through a project called Agribusiness, and it is being implemented in a number of countries in West Africa. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rose Omari from the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. Ladies and gentlemen, please give her another round of applause. It certainly was a very informative presentation. Thank you very much for that. I think everybody got a lot of information out of that. But what we're going to spend the next couple of hours doing is we're going to call on stage our panelists for this afternoon, and we're going to unpack some of those issues that Dr. Omari came up with and the recommendations specifically that she spoke about, and see how these things are impacting the lives of our panelists and in the areas that they work on in agribusiness. So I would like to call up our panelists now, please. As I said, we are running on time. We started a little bit late, but we made up some of that time this afternoon, so not to worry about that. We will have time afterwards to answer any questions that you may have, specifically for our panelists or Dr. Omari, who will be staying with us for the afternoon. And one thing I liked about what Dr. Omari said is experience sharing. And so these platforms that we have like this, it's interesting because we can share those experiences and we can grow from those experiences. And I was very happy to see one of our presenters from last year in the audience today, who came from Zambia to join us last year. He has a project funded by the European Union in Zambia. He spoke and shared his experiences in Zambia with our panel last year in Ghana, and that was the catalyst to come back to Ghana and start doing business here. So that is a very interesting development. And it just shows that these kind of platforms do end up working because it's an opportunity to share the experiences and then to grow from that. So thank you, Mr. Smallholder, for coming back to Ghana. I think we're still missing one, maybe fell asleep somewhere after the jollof rice. Chris Kwashi, has anybody seen Chris Kwashi? He was on a panel earlier today. He had to step out, but he should be on stage. But if you're happy, I'm happy to continue, and he can step in when he does come. What I'm going to do is, we've heard a very detailed presentation from Dr. Rose Omari from the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask our panelists to tell us how digitalization in the agribusiness sector is impacting or not impacting or could be impacting their lives. At the same time, telling us about themselves and the projects that they are currently working on. We're going to start with Andrea Gia from the Agribusiness platform of the European Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Leon. My name is Andrea Gia. I'm part of the European Chamber of Commerce in Ghana, and we are deeply collaborate with the EU delegation, putting up together this agribusiness platform, which has the aim to put in contact the Ghanaian reality on farmers, buyers, supplier, and the European players. I think it's just a short presentation, what we are looking, and so I'll give the word to my neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Sandra Snowden. I'm from Handy Farms. Handy Farms is a purpose-driven company where mango growers, agriculturalists, and value-added company. What we do is we're part of Dangbe West Mango Farmers, which is a farmer body association. We're based in Dodowa. We work with a group of farmers to be able to absorb fruits and add value to those fruits. So we're women empowered, and we power women and youth in processing, gaining them skills and training to be able to improve their livelihoods for themselves and for their families. So our products range from anything mango. You'd actually find us outside. We've got a stall outside, 004. Go there, try some mangoes. When mango is out of season, we guarantee that there's fresh, natural mangoes in different forms that you're able to enjoy. We move away from that and also do a bit of contract manufacturing, so guaranteeing food security and reducing imports that come in. So we work with pineapple industry, we work with the coconuts, we work with passion fruits, not only the crop that we grow. We again, add on and talk about doing agrotourism. This also enables and helps promote the agri sector in Ghana and giving people an experiential feel of farms and active farms. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Said Mubarak Abdullah. I work for Antica Company Limited, an agribusiness firm based in Wa in the Upper West region. So basically my company, we are from farm to table, let me put it that way. And that is involving distribution of agro inputs such as seed, fertilizer, agrochemicals to smallholder farmers. We are also into the production of seeds, basically maize, rice, soya bean. As our major crops, we have some minor crops like groundnuts, cowpea, and sorghum that we produce. Antica is actually one of the largest local seed companies in Ghana, a member of the National Seed Trade Association of Ghana, as well as the National Seed Council that is responsible for regulating the seed sector in the country. We are also a company that provides mechanization services to smallholder farmers and commercial farmers who are into tractor services, plowing, planting, spraying, and other mechanization services that are needed. Then we also run an input credit scheme. We work with a little over 4,000 smallholder farmers where we support them with inputs on credit, seed, fertilizer, agrochemicals, extension services, and then the market space. So when they harvest, they pay us back with the produce. So this year is one of our biggest headaches because of the current drought situation we find ourselves in. I mean, we did an investment of close to 10 million cedis, and as I sit, I don't know whether I can get some 30% of it, because the drought situation in the north was very severe, almost 2 months of drought, and it's one of the biggest headaches that we currently face in up north. Then recently, through the support of the EU projects, we went into value addition, that is rice milling within the northern belt, where we mill the paddy rice, we package them, and then we sell in the markets. We currently have some outside for exhibition. People, you can pass by the GIZ EU stand, you see our products there that we are marketing. So basically, that's what we do. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tenemba Anna Samake. I'm Executive Director of MBC Africa. So we are an advisory firm that provides services, business development services to entrepreneurs and MSMEs on the agricultural value chain. I say value chain because basically everything we do, we have a systemic approach. So we started in 2012 as a training program. But today, what we do, we run different ecosystems for specific actors on the agricultural value chain. So the first ecosystem we run is for what we call rural enterprises. On the value chain, you have plenty of small enterprises that need the support and they're not getting it. And on any given ecosystem, we have 4 things that we give at MBC. So we give support in strategy building, team building, business development, access to market, also support in accessing innovation and technologies needed for the businesses we work with on the different programs, and in fine, access to finance. And this piece was the most difficult because all the discussions around financing entrepreneurs is very difficult because there's a whole piece of financing tools that they don't have access to. As like in any system, you have different stages. So in startup or innovation stage, you practically have no financing available. So the last thing we ventured into is designing and implementing an innovative financial inclusion model that give them access to finance both the innovation and the very early stage of these businesses. Our second ecosystem is for women-owned and led businesses. We're doing that with a fund, She Equity Fund, headquartered in Mauritius. And MBC Africa has designed and is running the accelerator program linked to the She Equity Fund. So the accelerator program is SHIBA, She Equity Business Accelerator Program. So we provide pre-investment and post-investment support to the businesses that She Equity invests in. And last but not the least, our inclusion program, which is, we didn't do anything complicated and complex. We just observed and learned from what we know traditionally in Africa. So here I know they call it susu. I come from Mali, we call it tontine. I think in Nigeria also they call it susu. So what we did, we went from something people understand and we innovated from that to adapt it to create an instrument that they can trust and work with. But it's not exactly like the traditional susu, but it's the mechanism they understand and they trust it. And we built from there. So this is a little bit some of the things that we're doing right now. And we are digitizing practically all our operations. Not easy in Agric.
Good afternoon. My name is Ziad Hamwi. I'm the national president of a regional trade advocacy group called Borderless Alliance, private sector led, but we provide advisory services to members and various stakeholders, including government agencies. And for digitalization, I can mention some of the projects that we've been working with and actually driving forward. For example, the electronic non-tariff barrier reporting mechanism, which we were rolling out at the moment between Ghana and Burkina Faso to help the economic operators and traders to complain about harassments along the corridors when they are moving their corridors, and then to attend to them in real time. So there is an online platform for them to access, or in case of an ability to access that platform, there's a hotline attached to it, one in Ghana, which is in collaboration with the Ghana Shippers Authority, our host institution, and then in Burkina Faso with the Conseil Burkinabé des Chargeurs, the Burkina Shippers Council. There's another initiative that we help on the rollout of the SIGMAT transit system, that is the Système Intégré de Gestion de Marchandises en Transit, the regional trade transit scheme, where the governments across ECOWAS region are interconnecting their customs systems. And so we come at the point where customs border agency cooperation is important in order to provide this kind of visibility for the transit trade that is moving across the region. And then we also work with the regional economic community on the implementation and the complaints with regards to the implementation of the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme. When you are registered in one ECOWAS country and then you are allowed a free trade and the ETLS is a free trade agreement that allows an ECOWAS-registered economic operator to move his registered products across the region, duty-free and quota-free. But as you all know, there are many instances where the implementation of this regional agreement is difficult or faulty or uneven, and more of the time, the marginalized groups and the less privileged groups end up facing the burden of this implementation. When you're a smallholder farmer that is engaged in cross-border trade, or when you're an association that is involved in cross-border trade, these are some of the marginalized groups that we work with. But we also work with the private sector, economic operators, the regional traders and economic operators. And we work also, for example, on brainstorming with the various technical working groups across the region when we are looking at engineering or restructuring some of the processes that involve regional trade. Like, for example, the current imminent implementation and rollout of an e-certificate of origin across ECOWAS. So we sensitize stakeholders, we engage in prior consultation with government agencies, and then we provide services to assist in moving their goods freer across borders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, for those very detailed introductions of yourselves and your activities in this specific sector. Tinembe, I would like to start with you and just if you can take us through how you are mitigating limited internet connectivity or penetration even in certain circumstances. I hope MTN is listening. I know they're a sponsor here. In rural areas specifically, which of course makes it very difficult for farmers to access digital services.
So everybody is talking about digitizing operations. So as we work, you rightly said, we work with smallholder farmers. Sometimes you have two things. First, sometimes they don't speak English or French, so they can't have access to your services. Secondly, the infrastructure of communication does not permit them to access to it. So we came up with the agency model. It's something that exists. We just customize it to our needs. So MBC trains, we have trained what we call business development agents in both Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, and we will do it in Nigeria next year. These are young people that we recruit from their communities. So we train them. Most of them, we give them a tablet on which they have all the services available. And they can play interface with the smallholder farmers or the cooperative. That's one thing. And the second thing is that we've tested it. I sit on the board of a company in Nigeria, and we tested the agency model, and it works perfectly. And they have even improved it, so we're going to implement the improved version in Ghana very soon, which is that they also have access to marketplaces, or they have access to internet and to buy equipment or buy supply, like Antica is available on that platform, and they can buy from Antica even if they're not in WA, but they're not far from WA, and Antica can deliver anything. So this is something that we have done to mitigate the difficulties of them accessing to digitized services.
Thank you very much, Tinembe. We had Dr. Amari saying earlier about literacy, digital literacy among farmers. I would like to pose this question to you, Sadie. You work from farm to plate. How much progress from your specific perspective do you think has been made in terms of digital literacy?
So I was really happy when she raised that point, because in Ghana, I would say is the biggest issue that has to do with the adaptation of technology within the agriculture space where we work in. Most of the agriculture activities are happening within the rural areas where they might not be having internet service. Mm-hmm. Two, they might not be having even electricity. And then again, the illiteracy rates among them is also very high. So sometimes it's very difficult for them to say they are using smartphones where you could easily disseminate this kind of information. So what we have done in terms of dissemination of information basically has to do with through the voice, the voice recording. And Isoko has been a very key partner in this regard where, for instance, we want to give extension service delivery. The information is decoded in the local language. So if you want to do on plantain, you have to translate it in Dagari or Sisali. Mm-hmm. Then it's sent to the farmers are profiled, their networks numbers are collated. Once it drops on your phone, it comes as either a call. Then immediately you pick it, it begins to speak out in your language to you on a specific topic that you are doing. So whether it's a YAM phone, whether it's a smartphone, immediately the call goes through. Then the farmer is able to be reached with the information through their language. Then we also
So
use
even with a basic phone that Tanemba showed us earlier.
Exactly.
Some of us haven't seen those Nokia since at least 15 years.
So a lot of the rural farmers are still using that. That is what we call the YAM. Are still using the YAM phone. And it's convenient because if they charge that phone, it can take them about a week or two. And the only time they get to charge it is their market days. When the businessman comes with the genset, on it at the market center and then charge the phone for them. So when they are using it, it's kind of like makes sense to them. They only need to get internet service or maybe get onto a tree or a spot, to be able to get signal to do one or two of the calls.
So we shouldn't be complaining about this in the city, that we don't have any internet activity or connectivity.
Yes, so that is the challenge. But of course, we still rely a lot on radio. We rely a lot, so much on radio to give out our informations. On a weekly basis, we are on the radio to disseminate informations on agronomic practices that farmers need to learn. And that is one of the key things that we have been using over the years, even up till now. But farmers are adapting. And farmers are very smart. Those that are not even literate, but are fortunate to have internet service and are using smartphones, they are able to go on WhatsApp, and then you are able to put them on groups. For instance, our seed outgrowers, we have a WhatsApp platform for them, all the seed outgrowers. And it's very easy for us to reach, there are about 240 of them on the seed production wing, easily reach them in a minute with the WhatsApp platform. So we record the message on two, Sisale and Dagari. Those are the major languages that we speak. Once we record, we put it on the platform, and then you easily get feedbacks with the voice, notes also coming from the farmers. They might not be able to type, but then we're able to communicate using the voice notes on WhatsApp.
Wonderful, thank you. Sandra, I'd like to come to you. I think I'm going to call you Miss Mango with all the wonderful mango products that you have.
Go ahead.
I tasted some of your jam yesterday. It is so delicious.
Thank you.
So, in terms of infrastructure, you also work in rural areas with farmers as well. How are poor road networks and a lack of storage facilities actually making it difficult to implement digital solutions?
Okay, so for us, we've had one issue after the other, and the roads are very, very poor. We're in a rural area, not too rural, but we're in Dodowa. The roads from Accra to Dodowa are very, very poor.
And they didn't fix them before the elections?
Well, fingers crossed. They say they will, fingers crossed. Let alone the access road onto the farms to be able to take produce out and into Accra. So that being the first challenge, we had to, because our mangoes are perishable, we had to come up with a solution. So our solution was to implement cold chain facility. Now, with a cold chain facility, that's perfect, fantastic, we've moved on. But then again, poor high-speed internet, lack of efficient electricity, we're not able to have efficient, consistent use of this. This is where cost versus benefits comes in. It would ideally be good for us to be able to run everything on solar, but it's not super competitive for us. So we've had some support from UNIDO Wacom through the EU project, and we've been able to scale up slowly, but lack of high-speed internet means we're not able to do, traceability doesn't work. We're not able to record temperature, humidity of the cold chain facility. Record keeping is also very difficult, so everything ends up being quite manual. Ideally, we should be able to get to the point where we're recording all of this sitting in Accra. Ideally, I want to be a classy farmer. I don't want to be on the farm instantly every single day to be able to record those things. So our staff should be able to have a means of communicating this to us and recording it consistently, not break in electricity, lack of high-speed internet facility. It doesn't make us competitive, unfortunately.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Also, I love the fact that Sandra actually changes the view that we have of a farmer in our minds, that farmers are looking young and trendy and they don't have to be in the plantation every day, as you said. I love that. I'm going to come to you now, Andrea. You were like slowly thinking that I'm forgetting about you. How are you mitigating the high costs of digital technologies and services, which makes it inaccessible? We spoke earlier about, finding solutions, but it still remains somebody has to pay, right? Yeah. So how are you mitigating that issue?
I myself mitigate it, try to limit it as much as I can, the usage of data. However, I can only give, some idea and suggestion. I think it's a very complicated issue, this one, because it can be approach in different level. Mitigating of cost involve also some high-level decision at the governative level, trying to introduce maybe more competitivity in the market, because at the end of the day, more players are on the field and more mitigate out of the cost. From a lower level, I can also see that we need maybe to identify different business methods as well related to the farmers. So try maybe to revise the idea that every single farmer must have directly a phone, try to organize the farmers in a different way where those costs can be mitigated. I can assume an example. Even the access to this platform, etc. If we might have different organization of farmers where we have cooperative or system like that, where they can partially absorb the cost of this direct cost, it might be at the widest spectrum of this sector, trying to do a very deep analysis and reorganization, because directly it's difficult to mitigate the cost.
Thank you very much. I'm going to come to you now, Ziad. You provide services to government on a wide range of activities. And security concerns, as mentioned by Rose in her report as well, and cybersecurity concerns are obviously very important for everyone, not just farmers, but they don't have a lot of information about it. They don't have a lot of literacy about data protection services. What do you think government can do in terms of making information more widely available, for actually creating policy that polices this in some way? What would you say would be government's role in this matter?
So that is a very good question. And the security of the information, and especially when it has to do with trade, and especially when it has to do with cross-border trade, is paramount here. It's actually one of the main reasons why usually border agencies are unable to or unwilling to cooperate when they have to mutually recognize the documents coming from across the borders because of some sovereignty concern. And you'll notice that I'm twisting a little bit the question, because when you're a farmer in the market access is important, but you're usually trading simply in your goods. Yes, there would be some online platforms that you might be using to access some of these services and to provide some of these services. So the risk management will have to, in relation to the cybersecurity concerns, will have to take into consideration the profiling of these members who are available online. You know that, well, in Ghana, phishing and scamming are becoming more and more common. People have won the lottery, or people have 1,000 metric tons of something, or whatever it is. And then you can't really verify the authenticity or the origin of this kind of information. So I think government has a role to enforce the regulatory framework. But then again, once you regulate, then the role is to make sure that within the realms of the regulatory framework that you have enforced, that you make sure that you facilitate the business of doing business for those economic operators who are proven to be compliant. And you know that most of the time, whether it is domestic trade or economic operators activity, or whether it's cross-border trade and economic activity, the main concern is how to balance security and compliance, or security and development, or in other words, how to balance compliance versus facilitation. Because obviously, once you are compliant, you expect that you can zoom through with the procedure. But that is not what usually happens, especially at border crossings. You have uniformed authorities who have all the reasons in the world to slow down whatever kind of activity is taking place. You have lacking infrastructure, as we said, not only within the roads. You have to go to some of the borders to look at the infrastructure to understand exactly the severity of the situation. And then there are still, admittedly, in Ghana and elsewhere within West Africa and Africa, areas where internet penetration, not just internet penetration, but availability of the connectivity. So there are some places where you will be engaging in conversation. Remember, last week we were having this discussion with, we're just within Ghana, and then all of a sudden the discussion, the connection just dies down. So there is some work on building the infrastructure. There is some work on risk assessment, and then there should be work on balancing compliance with facilitation in order to encourage the economic operators and traders to adhere to the laws, to do what is necessary, because that will entitle them for a facilitated business, and which will lead to lower costs and more trade for them. Thank you.
Seydou, I love that you brought up that example of using WhatsApp voice notes and allowing farmers who can't even read or write to be able to communicate their needs and to share information, which I thought was it can be, I guess, in a lot of different countries, but it's a very specific Ghana solution that you found. And I think this remains a problem, that there are many solutions, but not really tailored for Ghanaian farmers. Are there any other examples that come to mind, or solutions that you think could be implemented from elsewhere in the Ghanaian market?
So one of the things we copied from Kenya specifically was on our seed traceability issue in terms of the quality and all that. And Kenya, they've gone far with that a small scratch card that they use to track the quality systems of the seed that they produce, with the smallholder farmers. And that doesn't also require any high level of literacy among the farmers. So through the EU support and other development partners, the National Seed Trade Association of Ghana, together with 3 seed companies, inclusive Antica, and then the regulator, Plant Protection and Regulatory Services Directorate, we implemented a 3-year seed traceability issue where all the packaging of seeds that we did, we had the sticker attached to the seed. So once the smallholder farmer got it, they scratch, and then it's like you send to a short code to ascertain the veracity of the seed, whether it's quality or fake. Within the 3-year window, we had in excess of 200,000 subscribers of that particular traceability issue in terms of the usage, which meant that we probably were underrating the literacy rates of farmers when it comes to some of these readings and stuff. Because we had the contact numbers of these farmers, the information, their names, where they are texting from, and the variety of seeds that they were buying. So immediately after that, it is now a national issue being discussed as to being adapted nationally to be a rule. Not now limited to the 3 seed companies, but across the country of Ghana, where our quality standards in terms of seed would be implemented using the traceability stickers that we were using, which I think is a very laudable thing that we're able to pick up from one country. We tested and piloted. It worked very well. Mm-hmm. And now on a national scale, even the ministry is adapting. They are putting in steps to adapt that for us to use, going forward.
Wonderful. So you also need to chat with Changwe from Zambia, who has about 30,000 smallholders that he works with. I would suggest that you speak to him after this panel. Okay, so we've spoken a lot about the challenges, and we're going to move to some of the opportunities in the digitalization of the agribusiness sector, which of course falls under the industrialization of the agribusiness sector. So among these opportunities, of course, access to markets, and I'm happy for any of you to jump in, but I will start with Andrea in terms of how digital platforms can give farmers access to new markets. Very simple.
I think most
opportunity, how do we take advantage of it?
I think most of the issue and the solution has been already highlighted, because actually to access to a complicated market like Europe, for example, where legislation are very restrictive, there are a lot.
And so, it's getting worse or better. I don't know what should I say.
Yeah, it's true.
It's going to get more difficult, more complicated. Let's say.
We are quite complicated, and after at the EU level, we also have the local single member state level. So it's and sometimes they overlap. So that means that this kind of approach is fundamental. Without this kind of information, it's basically impossible to access to market, let's say, called so sophisticated. Even though this complication that we can see exporting to Europe is made by a group of law which actually try to protect the European consumer. And I believe that this kind of, let's say, called protection must be also applied locally. So this has to be a habit of how we're supposed to produce also for the local market, to protect our local consumer as well. For sure, digitalization helps on, as we said, traceability, certificate of origin, which now is coming into the system. Also, it helps to give value of the production, on the production. It helps also, to give to the buyers more trust also, because you know that what we are buying, okay, it's from a buyer, from a seller well recognized. It helps also to simplify the trade. Sometimes I heard that some farmers, they were traded in such, so you don't even know how much is in the such. Or in the measurement or unit of measure, a little bit tricky. I'm a civil engineer, I work in the construction, so sometimes I saw the mixing of concrete made by wheelbarrow. So you never know how many bag is inside. So it's also good to, as a training for the farmers, to try to simplify and unify the standards. So the digitalization helps also in terms of efficiency. Okay, so minimizing the cost of production as well. So it's absolutely an open chapter. It is undoubtedly a big help for the farmers, the digitalization. This one is undoubtable. And many other things. So.
Thank you, Andrea. Sandra, do you have any experience to share with us specifically about how this can actually, how it's helped you access new buyers or new markets, and how it could potentially help others in this room or elsewhere?
Yeah, so I think we serve as a marketplace for farmers because we offtake raw mangoes, fresh mangoes from farmers. So an e-commerce website for us was a bonus. That was the first point of call. And you can't make light of other platforms like Facebook Marketplace. There's also WhatsApp, which is a real tool for business and buyers. And then there's LinkedIn, of course, which gives you direct access to buyers. But also there's organizations in Ghana like, I think, Farmerline, who offer direct access to farmers and links to buyers. They give digital extension officers. And it also comes in different languages, like was being said before. So there's all these tools and platforms that are available, and farmers need to have access to it and use them. It's available. We need to stop and change the mindset of we've always done it this way, or how old peasant farming was done, and move with the times, sorry. But yes, those things are available, and farmers have access to it.
And as Sedu said earlier, to stop underestimating them, because I think sometimes that does happen.
Yes. So for us, at the marketing, one thing we look at critically is that the local market. I mean, if we are not able to satisfy the local market, how are we exporting? And this actually got to us when we started the processing of our rice. The local demand for that particular rice was so high that we couldn't even meet the demand of Upper West and Northern region. Just these two, Upper West and Northern region. But then through adverts on Facebook and then Mint, made in Northern Ghana platform that was supported by GIZ through the Ghana Chamber of Businesses. We had orders from Accra, Cape Coast, Kumasi, almost everywhere, requesting for the processed and milled rice that we were doing. But then in the premises where we are operating, we were not able to even meet the market. So the focus was now like, can we redirect our energies to see how best we can even satisfy the local before we think of going outside of our regions and then even thinking of exporting? Because many a times the focus has always been on export, when in fact those that are behind you at the background are not even getting the product to eat. They come in, you don't have, you are only exporting. So we had to also concentrate and look at our local premises where we are within the Upper West to see how we can even satisfy it. And trust me, it's a big market such that we are not able to. And we are still even looking at expanding more and seeing how we can do that. But the digital world, it really popped us. It went really viral and so fast, and we couldn't meet up with that. And that is one of the things. Through marketing, you may become more popular than your production capacity, and you end up having challenges. They are calling for the product and it's not there. You know.
You can't have jollof rice without rice, I guess. Yes, go ahead.
Just a small comment. So it's good because you just said it that there's a lot of business from your end. We all come there to farm. But it's interesting, this approach, and I want to highlight one thing. The issue of exporting. You know, it's true. We have to satisfy the local demand. But always maintaining a balance in between export and local demand. Also for a simple financial reason. For the local demand, you have been paid in Ghana cedi. For export, you'll be paid in foreign currency. And you know, especially now, how we need foreign currency in this country. So exporting can be a target, a standard. If, as you said, if I'm able, reverse it, if I'm able to export, then it will be easier as well to produce for local market. But export, it's a must. It's a must. We have to look always at exporting. If it's not, the demand is not enough, I mean, the offer is not enough, let's improve the offer to meet the internal demand. But exporting is key. This is my point of view.
But people need to eat, so we need to strike that balance. Sandra, I'm going to ask you...
I wanted, excuse me, I just wanted
to
add, I think he also wanted to add something. Access to market, from our perspective, because we're a service provider, we're a service company, so we are looking at two types mainly of access. So we're looking at him, off-taker, but we're all looking at the smallholder farmers. So the platform that we are integrating, we have to satisfy the needs in terms of information for both, make transactions easy for both, and help both of them manage the risk. And you have another actor in our background, which is the financial intermediary. So we built different databases. Now we're integrating all of them. So if you're a smallholder farmer, you have your information on that platform. Off-takers have access to it. Off-takers, same thing. They have access to those who are doing the production. And those who are financing in the back also have access to a database to limitate their risks. Because that has been the biggest issues with all the banks. They will tell you KYC, 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 but it's very expensive to do KYC the way you were doing it. So we brought it to a lower level by maintaining the quality of the information on the smallholder farmer, the SME. So if you really, really want to transact with these people, work with some of us, you will be able to do. But if you don't, that's another story.
Thank you. Mine also feeds into the document, into the conversation at the moment, because we spoke about creating opportunity. There is opportunity. There's abundant opportunity. But we've spoken also at the same time a lot about smallholder farmers and about small and medium enterprises. And now my thought is about how to build on the SMEs and to scale up using digitalization. And to do both of these, it gets us to the point that Tenemba was talking about, which is access to finance. And access to finance has always time and again came up to be one of the thorniest issues. Access to farmer and, of course, production costs, but that's a different issue. For now, access to finance, whether in Ghana or globally, is becoming more difficult. And it's not all of the SMEs or the potential leaders of tomorrow have access to that kind of money. And so that is why, for example, a few months ago when we met in Rabat at the Food and Agriculture Organization's African Regional Conference, we drafted, Tenemba and myself were part of the private sector representatives, and we made our declaration on behalf of the private sector. And the second sub-theme of the declaration was specifically about bridging finance gap to develop agribusiness. So we spoke about enhancing financing mechanisms and tools for MSMEs, including risk mitigation, micro-insurance, adapted guarantees. We spoke about harmonizing the documentation for trade. We spoke about investing in strategic public infrastructure. So it's important, and it's not something that you can do by yourself, even if you have the ability to do it as a private sector, because this is where public-private participation would have to come in. And that was my second point I wanted to make. So access to finance, but also the public-private partnership and collaboration required to make sure that you can push forward to build the MSMEs of today into the leaders of tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Ziad, for those points. Because this panel is not just on digitalization, but also on industrialization, I'm going to ask you, Sandra, how you think enhanced digitalization and industrialization could make more precision decisions in agriculture. Increased efficiency will, of course, lead to that, but how can this be done in Ghana?
Okay, so I think the future of agriculture is really science. We've moved from peasant farms to large-scale farms. We've gone into greenhouse innovation. And now I think the next step really is we're going into AI. We're using drones. We're monitoring fertilizer applications, precision irrigation. These are all available. These are the next steps that we need to be talking about. Precision irrigation is able to control the usage of water, so you're giving enough water, nutrients to your crops and to your trees. Irrigation, fertigation as well can be done through the same process. Robotics, the next step will be robotics. I know it sounds like floaty ideas, but these are the conversations that we need to be having now in Ghana to be able to make us competitive farmers to meet the yields and the demands that are being required of us for our raw materials, let alone the value addition. Yeah.
And I think, Sedu, that speaks to what you mentioned earlier about the current drought. And so what are some mechanisms that you can use, or how will industrialization help you in a situation that you find yourself in now?
About 5-6 years ago, the usage of certified seed in Ghana was less than 15%. This is a climate-smart technology that farmers were not used to. Today, as we speak, we are having about 45% of smallholder farmers and commercial farmers using certified seeds. We still have over 50% of us to catch up with the use of certified seeds. In crop production, that is the first level that you should be starting whatever technology you are doing, but your seed is the number one for production. And so that has to be looked at critically for us to see how we improve upon our yields towards industrialization. Secondly, we are having a new cluster of farmers coming up within the Northern Belt, commercial farmers. Many of us moving from smallholder farmers to commercial farmers. And I'm talking of, in our area, how we describe commercial farmers of sizes about 150 acres and more at one place that they are using. For the past 3 years, within our premises, it's now difficult to see a hole within our premises, a hole that we use to farm. Now, from planting up until harvest are all machines within the Antica yard. We are looking to see when our smallholder farmers would be same, that the hoe and cutlass system is no longer there, but then the use of small farm implements, technologies are what is driving them to do the production, cutting down the cost of labor, improving the yields of the crops that they are doing, and of course, improving the productivity and incomes. That is the other area we are looking at. Like you mentioned of the drought, as I sit here, I'm at a risk of losing initially 10 million cedis, as I said, this year. And for the late rains that are coming, I begin to have hope that maybe I could get a 30% recovery of that from what I am seeing on the fields, on my own farms, and then on the smallholder farmers' fields that I support. The reality is always that I myself, I am farming the same as you are farming that I'm supporting you. I see what is happening on my farm, and I see what is happening, across all the farms. It's difficult for me to hold you to ransom, that you pay me the loan I've given you when I know in reality the thing, it's been lost. And so we need to begin to do more of the irrigation systems, as she mentioned. For us, we are fortunate to have the Black Volta running through 5 districts in the Upper West region. It is something we have consistently cried on, and I think it is high time government, the private sector, and other development partners, we look at it critically. Developing the farming area along the Black Volta for us to do irrigation. There's huge volumes of water that is on the Black Volta, and coupled with when the Bagri Dam is open, more water coming in. So the land is there, the water is there. We need to develop, the agrarian valleys for us to go in and do more of irrigation farming, where we are reliably getting our water over the time period that we are doing the cropping. And I think that is one key thing that would help us and transform the productivity of agriculture that we are looking to go more into the industrialization sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Sedu. I see you want to add something, Ziad?
I do, actually, and I want to look at industrialization from a policy perspective. Because you can have the best of intentions, you can have the best of resources, but then if your industrialization policy is first of all not up to date to meet the aspirations and the requirements, and second, and the point which I wanted to emphasize, and it has to do with the harmonization of the policies. And the reason I'm mentioning harmonization is because look at ECOWAS, for example. At least for the moment, ECOWAS is 15 countries. These 15 countries do not necessarily have, we'll talk later.
Not even. Not even 15.
Just 12. We will talk later. So, as it stands, until January 25, ECOWAS is 15 countries. And so these countries have different industrial policies and priorities among themselves. And we currently have a rolling out continental strategy to integrate the African markets into one large market that would be accessible to all, especially for African manufacturers and producers. And so from a policy perspective, it is a priority for all African states, including our own country, Ghana, to re-examine its industrial policy priorities, to see how to align these priorities within the regional economic community. How well do these priorities align with the AFCFTA so that we all move together towards the integration of all of these markets into one larger market, and to allow our own local manufacturers and producers access into these enlarged markets and allow us to also grow better and grow together.
Yeah, as what you were saying earlier about exporting doesn't necessarily mean exporting to Europe, but exporting to neighboring countries, as you've rightly mentioned. I'm going to come back to Seydou because it's something that I picked up on your first comments that you made in terms of mechanization and what Antica is doing in terms of mechanization. This is a very big opportunity for industrialization in the agribusiness sector. And how can Ghana scale the mechanization efforts that a company like you are currently doing?
So at the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, we are considered as one of the private AMSECs. That is the Agriculture Mechanization Service Centers in the country. And the ministry is also pushing to establish some of the private mechanization service centers across the country where timely delivery of these services can be done to farmers. I have very few machines that I can do, 20 tractors, and at the peak of it, there's so much of pressure as though you don't have any, because our season is very short and everybody needs to do the same thing at the same time, else you are lost within the time frame. Where we find ourselves, we have one season, and from April to early weeks of June, if you've not plowed, then forget it. It means you wouldn't do anything the whole of the year. Now, within June and July, planting has to be done. You may have some 3 or so planters that you are using to do planting. Considering the large number of farmers that are there, within Upper West alone, we have in excess of 300,000, smallholder farmers, and then other commercial farmers. And in fact, the population estimate for Upper West is about 900,000, where about 90% of us are into agriculture. One way or the other, we need mechanization services on time. And so it's a big opportunity. For me, I see it as a business, that if we invest in mechanization, there's a business that we can render the services to the farmers, and then we are able to pay back all the implements that we are putting in there. And then at the same time, the smallholder farmers and the commercial farmers are also able to be serviced on time. Many a times we normally rely on tractors coming from the middle belt, Ejura. At the time we are planting, they are done, their season is over. So some of them are able to flow in to support. There was a year, some local, we have an association of mechanization service providers. They were agitating why this influx of people. And I made a comment that if these people don't come, you might die of BP. Because they come to help us reduce the pressure on ourselves. And fortunately, the year we were having that arguments and infights, they decided not to come. A lot of our farmers couldn't get services. Because we want to say you can service everybody. It is not true. Our capacity is not up to that. So we end up depriving a lot of farmers, not getting timely service delivery, and then productivity suffers. At the end of the day, the yield that we were expecting from the region would drop. And now, as we speak, Upper West is the largest producer of maize in Ghana. And our ministers say we produce the best maize in the world. So if we delay on some of these activities, it affects our productivity and it affects our ranking when it comes to the country rankings. At least it gives us some priority in terms of infrastructure delivery, roads, electricity, and other amenities that the government could probably bring on board. And so for us, mechanization, we see it as a very important component within the agri space, and more of it as a business that we need to invest in, towards delivering these services. Yeah.
Yeah, so mechanization is obviously a very big opportunity, and I'm coming to you now. But with that comes access to finance. And so what I would like you to speak on, Tinembe, is what are some of the success stories that you can share with us? Not all doom and gloom, but where are these pockets of glimmers that we can focus on and we can scale up?
So let me put my investor's hat on.
Because Tinembe has 3 decades of experience.
Yes, so I have multiple hats. So now is the investor speaking. When you want to invest in agric, you have so many challenges. You choose your battles. Mechanization, for example, is one of the areas that could be very sticky. Why? Because when you want to invest in a business, you want to be able to see scaling capability, meaning the number of farmers you will serve is of a certain size that makes you, investor, comfortable to put money in that mechanization business. Very difficult right now to do in most of the companies I see. I may be wrong. So maybe we can do some other approaches. We can have his mechanization center, but what we have seen that has been successful in other countries is that you are building more and stronger smallholder farmers or medium-sized farmers groups, very strong cooperatives of 1 million, 2 million. The conversation with the bank changes a lot. Yeah, the bank will run after you because you're 1 million, but you are serving 4,000, 3,000. It's difficult for a bank for different reasons. I'm not even talking about the other. I'm just talking about our local bank. So one of the things that we've been trying to do in Ghana, which has been very difficult for cultural and different reasons, is to build these cooperatives, very strong ones. That's how we solution it in Mali, Burkina, Senegal, Niger. You can have a cooperative that's 3 million people, and they're working practically in the same area or regions that are not far one from the other. So there are a lot of things that you can, put together, like fundraising, like buying equipment, like providing other services like insurance and some of those things. So I think in Ghana, one of the main challenges that he is facing, that others are facing, is the capacity of the actors to come together and build strong organizations that can have a say. If the banks are talking like that, if you have a big cooperative, you're 3 million, you think that they will come running after you. So until they understand that, it's going to be very, very difficult to really do what we want to do. Me personally, I've invested from my pocket and lost a lot of money in Ghana as an angel investor because of these things. Because you want to invest in 1, 2, and then that was 3 years ago, I lost money because of drought. Again, that was 3 years ago. I invested in a young person, 10 acres of maize, and he lost practically everything. So I lost money. So it's not that I'm not willing as an investor, is that because there is an organization that is not there, that doesn't secure my investment to a level that I'm comfortable with. That is, I think, on the investment
Can you
side.
speak to the access to finance and some of the positive stories that I asked you about?
Yes, so the model that we're implementing right now that is inspired from my home country is that we are organizing not only the farmers. We are organizing, in Ghana, even in Ghana, you have VSLAs. Yeah, VSLAs are built on the Susu model. We put money in a box and we give it to someone, or we give out loans to different members. But it's very limited in the sense that the savings they are doing is so small because these people don't have a large income, so they save what they can, which limits them in the monies they are giving out as loan for people to develop businesses. So what we said is that, okay, you stay in your VSLAs, but we put multiple VSLAs together. We create a cooperative. You just crowded. You have a first number. You save. As you do traditionally, we won't touch your box because it's a very sensitive question. They don't want you to touch it. We don't touch your box, but we use technology to have an image of your box. Meaning we have an app that gives an image of your savings that we share with the bank. So the bank knows, and you have an account that shows that you have saved this amount on which we can leverage and raise more money. So you can then invest in other economic, income generating activities. So, and one of our main tasks is risk mitigation and risk management. So how do we do it? I said, okay, you have savings that contribute, but you also have different types of insurance. So each of the member in that cooperative has to subscribe to an insurance that diminishes the risks on the person, on the individual. So we have 4 risks that we try to mitigate. So, okay, it's life insurance, it's pension, so you have micro-pension, and you have 2 others, even some small health that we negotiate with some of the insurance. So as an individual, the bank knows that even if something happens to this gentleman, there is something that we can use, to fall back on. And the other side is on the activity of that person. Smallholder farmers, it's what? It's crop insurance. And that one has been very difficult because it's very expensive to develop these products. I tried as an investor once in my other life to invest in an insurance company, and it's very, very difficult. But I think in Ghana now you have 2. You have Gersel from Central Bank, and you have Alliance that is also trying to. So these risk mitigation instruments, we bring them to these smallholder farmers alone. They may not have access to that. But because they are together, there's a group, we can leverage on that and bring these services to them, and then they can access to more money. I mean, it's just, I think it's the willingness to make things happen that we're lacking, not the solutions, quite frankly.
Thank you, Tenembe. Ziad, many people will argue that digitalization, industrialization may stunt job growth. Where do you think are opportunities for job creation in this, in digitalization and industrialization?
Let's say it like this. You may suppress jobs on one side, but you create more jobs on the other side. Because the other side of the smallholder farmer is the offtake, is the industry. Mm-hmm. And industry is where you create a lot of jobs, right? So let's say you mechanize, you lose some jobs, but the more you transform, you process, you create more jobs and more quality jobs. So that one, I can arguments.
But where do these job opportunities specifically exist?
Oh, yes, they do.
Where? I mean, we know they exist, but where specifically, in which domain? Can we allow...
Remember, this is your domain. I can't answer on your behalf.
Okay, so it depends on the value chain.
Okay.
So let's take the mango. The value chain of mango, now you have robots where you can pick the mangoes. So let's say you have less pickers. But you need people to wash the mangoes and make a difference between the good ones and the bad ones. That one, machines can't really do that. Usually they prefer even women, okay? So there you have the jobs. On the processing side, it's the same thing. Dried mangoes, mango juice, mango puree, and everything. And you have that in the different countries I talked to you about. You take cereals. Right now, we all had our fufu or banku or whatever. You need flour. So you need to process the cereal into flour. The bread that you're eating. Today, some of the countries, we don't use only wheat. We use wheat and maize, wheat and cassava, wheat and orange flesh sweet potatoes. So you have to process all these into flowers. So all that are jobs.
Thank you very much.
Does it make sense?
It does. Thank you. Andrea, a lot has been spoken about now about transparency, especially when we're talking about exports. So increased transparency in the supply chain. Where is this already happening, and where are the opportunities for expansion in this domain?
The opportunity of expansion, there are many. Many, because I also personally believe that agriculture is one of the sectors, especially also in Ghana, one of the sectors that really can boost the economy of the whole country. I see this correlated to an industrialization where the transformation is a backing up of the agriculture, because agriculture is not only producing vegetables. Here we have to add in value. I heard also the European Union is moving into a direction, together with the government of Ghana, of not only the certificate of origin, but identifying specific production, specific area of production. This is where really we have to go and creating, as I always said, cooperative. So a cooperative which are related to a specific product on a specific area. There only the trademark is adding value. There we can look at a specific product which can be exported, use it locally, exported. Let me go back a little bit for one thing before answering to you. One point I believe is very clear. Ghana alone, the Ghana farmers alone cannot grow only with their own resources. I look at the European and my own origin country, which is Italy, a farming country. We, without the European Union support, we would have never grown in the agriculture sector. Agriculture sector, to back up the farmers through damage due to event, to mitigate the risk, needs an organization like we have in Europe to help in case of emergency. Italian agriculture, without this succeed and the feed from the European Union, it can never be sustainable. Here, ECOWAS must, in theory, play a role in the whole geographic area.
He's talking to you.
Because we can't pretend that agriculture develops only by single individual investors. Where you are talking about insurance. I'm not sure the insurance are willing to pay unless even, if a flood comes, they might say, first measure, we don't pay for that. So we need someone who is backup in that. And there can be only the public sector, the public. So going back to example, I can say for my small experience, country like in Kenya, which he mentioned already, I think is one of the leading country of digitalization, where digitalization has been, going together with financing. So finance, digitalization. I can mention the example of our friends, Changwe in Zambia, where they have studied a new model to try to combine digitalization, financing, and but it's always there, grouping people, grouping numerous farmers. So there are many examples, but as I said, for example, Kenya, where 40% have access to, of the farmers have access to digitalization process. There is still a long journey to go.
Exactly. There's a lot of opportunity left. And we're going to have to wrap up because I see they're giving me the signal to wrap up. I'm going to give you one last word and then I've got a surprise question for all of you. Okay.
Just to add up to what he's saying, 100% true. Currently, as we speak, we have only one insurance company that is willing to do crop insurance in Ghana. And this year, we did some of our first insurance. When the drought was more than 32 days, we followed and followed and followed for them to at least come to the field and see the crops. Because at that time, it was a national crisis. I mean, it wasn't like a one-man issue. It was a national crisis. It is yesterday they called that they want to come for field inspection. I lost interest within the insurance space, knowing that even when they come, but what basically are they going to see or do? So it is 100% true that individually we cannot move agriculture anywhere, and we need full support in terms of that. Because now I've lost, I am thinking next year, what I'm going to go through with my smallholder farmers. Where is the money coming from? I don't have it. I've lost everything.
Thank you very much for that, Seydou. So we've got a new government coming in Ghana shortly. Okay, so I want you to all, in just 30 seconds, don't think about it too much. What do you want from the new government? Blue sky, whatever it is, one thing.
A well-organized policy on the sector.
Seriousness and committed to what they say.
You look you look like you're going to need more than 30 seconds, Seydou.
We want pragmatic policies that they can implement that are productive and beneficial to us as the farmers.
I think they should improve the cooperative policy in Ghana. It's a must.
Well, I would like three things. The first of it is policy.
One thing.
Only one thing.
One.
Policy and consistency.
No.
Only one thing, consistency.
Consistency. Okay, great. I think that was a good note to leave it on. Now we're opening to the floor. We have some time still left for questions. I'm going to ask you to please introduce yourself, give your name and the structure or organization that you're from. Okay? Do we have someone helping us with microphones? Yeah.
Thank you. Good discussion. I see a sense of individualism, everyone having their own challenges at the corporate or business levels. My question to Zia and to each of you.
Could you please introduce yourself and the organization that you're from?
My name is Wendell Addy. I'm associated with the African Private Sector Summit, and primarily we are advocating for a private sector bill of rights for enabling business environment in Africa. And I think what we're doing here is, in terms of industrialization, we see some governments making some efforts. What is absent is a unified private sector, all right? Everyone fighting individually to address their personal problems at their farm level, at the manufacturing level, at the various levels. What is that one thing that we can all do, rally around, all right, as the private sector, collective private sector priority in terms of engaging government? And that one thing is the private sector Bill of Rights. And so the question is, please read about the private sector Bill of Rights. Everything you're concerned about, they're all in there. You cannot talk about industrialization in the absence of peace and security.
Oh, so can we get to the question, please?
So I would ask your question. Let them rethink about it and respond accordingly. Thank you. What is that one thing we can rally on around as business people?
I think it's been quite clear this afternoon in terms of what both, in fact, all of them have said, consistency and cooperatives. I think that came out very strongly in this conversation this afternoon, is that we are stronger in numbers, that if we're not fighting each other, that if we do get together as cooperatives, creating cooperatives of 1, 2, 3 million people. So that is a collective effort. So do you have a specific question for a specific person?
That is my comment.
I just wanted to help him with something.
Okay.
As I said in the beginning of my talk, is that it's a question of approach. I understand where he's coming from. So what we propose, like in everything we do, we built as a system, an ecosystem with the actors. She's in mango, she should be having a strong ecosystem around the mango value chain, and they work together in a system, both the producers, the processors, and the distributors. Then everybody in the system has a value in it. But what is happening is that the producer have their own thing, she has her headaches. Those who are sitting in Europe wanting the dry mango have their own headaches because they are from EU and they have all these standards and stuff. So how do we build each time? It's the approach. How do we have this systemic approach in doing things?
Thank you very much, Tanemba. Any other questions? I remember you from last year. Can we get a microphone to this gentleman over here?
Okay, my name is Derek Tetev. I work with the Writers Project of Ghana at the Alliance Française. My question goes to Miss Sandra. They're just simple two questions. Where in Dodowa is your company located? And will you maintain a monopoly on mangoes, or do you hope to diversify into other crops? Thank you.
Okay, so our location is Ayenya number 2, which is between Ayikuma and Agomeda. So it's just after the Dodowa township. And yes, for now, our main focus is mango because our farm is already mango populated. So we're not expanding our plantations, but there's so much mango in the region, so we're able to access mango. The other crops are also available, so we're in a position where we support the other crop growers. So we're not expanding into other crops, and we're just staying in our lane. Yeah.
So just one thing I want to add to what you just said. You see, this is a typical example of what I was talking about before. So, we have an area from Dodowa to Somenia well identified for the mangoes, which are very good, okay? Then, if one day we have a denomination of origin, the mango of, just give me a name, okay, of Kent, with his logo and everything that we can market, we can advert, we can export. You don't even think about diversifying your ANSI. Whoever is around this well-determined area is running to plant mango. So this is where we have to go. Adding value also to the soil itself where we are growing. So that makes your mango, which maybe you can sell for 10 cedi, you can justify the reason why you are selling for 15 cedi.
Yeah, because you increase the value of it, because the quality is better and more attractive.
There is a consortium or someone which is certifying the quality and make and adding value only by the branding.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Kwame Jantua. I'm with the AGI. I'm chairman of the oil and gas sector AGI. I'm also chairman of the GEPA, non-agri sector. And mine is a bit of advice. We need to start thinking outside the box. And the issue on foreign exchange, the issue of export. I do a lot of mentoring within AGI, and I realized that the pre-packed food, where you pack in sachets, is worth $60 billion today around the world. So what I did was, I took a small group of people who are into pre-packed foods. And because I have the market out there, when you look at the CD, 100,000 CDs today is only $6,000. They didn't have the kind of money to expand. So we tried to get them to do small parcels for the ethnic markets in the UK. And through that, they were able to earn foreign exchange to be able to also expand. And one of the major challenges was sustaining supply. But once we started that way, they've been able to get some foreign exchange, some CDs, and are now expanding their production in terms of export. So export is key, but they can't do it on their own if people like us aren't prepared to help. And when I say people like us aren't prepared to help, the money shouldn't come first. What should come first is the content. To be able to help them, the money will come after. So it's not just a question of we don't have it. People should prepare to act. EU can't do it all. USAID can't do it all. But those of us who are business people who are in the market should be able to help some of these young people to also access markets out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. You're not being a troublemaker this year. Okay, we're going to take one last question and then we're going to wrap up for the afternoon. No last questions? Oh,
Hi.
Now we've got three questions.
Now to 10.
Okay, we'll no?
Hello, I already have the microphone. Can I speak, please?
Sorry, we're going to take one last question from that side.
Sure. My name is Prince, please. I am from EUI. Just a quick question for the board. Please, if you do know about EU traces, is this something that you think is implementable in this country? EU traces.
What is EU traces? What is EU traces? What do you mean?
EU traces. So it's sort of a certified system that is an abbreviation, a system that supports importation of like farm animals, crops, and.
Charlie, if you talk like that, I can't even hear you.
So it's a trade control system, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's called EU traces. I'm asking if you do know about it. Is it something that you think can be implemented in Ghana as well?
I think from our faces, the answer
You
is
don't?
no. But here you have EU people sitting in front. So all of them, they might answer much better.
So can they speak to it if they are?
If EU people as well, they don't know what we are talking about, it's difficult.
Okay. Margot will answer the question.
Excuse me, maybe you could repeat the question again. I'm not quite sure that I understood it. No, in the mic, please.
But this is the EPA agreement or no? Is it the EPA agreement?
But what is your question about this?
Are you referring to the what we call maximum residual values in imported goods or substances that you are not allowed and things like that?
Okay, I think this is a question to take at the cocktail. Okay, we'll just ask a couple more questions this side and then we'll.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Might be something else.
Yes, hello, my name is Excellency Alex Asanvo from the Côte d'Ivoire Ghana Cocoa Initiative. It's a very general question, but I was sitting here and I heard a lot about how do we do the right thing to export. But there is something I was missing, which is transfer of knowledge, transfer of capacity, but also materials, good materials to do best harvest, best technology, etc. We have to think about building more from what we have here. And then maybe, we see the example of Ghana, where we have to ban certain products for export. So how do you see, as panelists, this situation in this new order in the world where partnership with Europe and also in the region could be strengthened in different directions rather than the usual kind of partnership where it's about giving me more and sometimes even this is the condition I wanted. So how do we build this? And do you have some example, or how do you see that going forward? Because in cocoa sector, for example, where I am, there is a massive tipping point we are in right now. And I'm sure in many other commodities. So your learnings and your experience will be very helpful for us and for others to see how do we build stronger relation rather than just transactional relation.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to answer that, Ziad? Okay, so we'll then really just answer one more question after that, then it's done.
I will do my best to be brief because this is a conversation that can take days and ages. His Excellency comes from a country that is diametrically opposed in their philosophy to cocoa value chain than Ghana. Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana are recently starting to get closer and to align. I think it's a good initiative. I think that African countries should look at regional value chains in pooling their resources and expertise and excellence in order to push forward and to have a bigger voice in creating a fairer market in terms of accessibility, in terms of export quality and others, and knowledge. Now, having said that, as he rightfully said, cocoa is at a tipping point, more dramatically in Ghana maybe, while eyes are on Cote d'Ivoire to announce their own price. And I wonder what would be the best model to import or to recreate for the success of various African regional value chains. But one thing I know for sure, whatever works better for mango might not necessarily work better for cereals. But I think in all of this, the cross-cutting principles would be the same. The transparency, the collaboration, the consistency, and then the enforcement. I think most of the issues with regards to the productivity of African agriculture lays root in our generosity in signing onto an agreement that we know we are never going to enforce, or in coming up with understandings among groups, not necessarily governmental groups, but then failing to move and follow up and ensure the continued and consistent implementation of what we have agreed on. So I think I agree that we have to start on the corporations levels. However, that is just part of the ecosystem. We have to build ecosystems around regional value chains because that is the sustainable thing to do, and that is the reasonable thing to do if we love our areas, our countries, if we love our agriculture. To move forward, we have to be stronger together. Then we have to make sure that we have a higher voice and that we cooperate prior to policy making, during policy making, and after policy making.
Thank you very much, Ziad. We're actually going to have to leave it there. Sir, I would ask you to please ask the panelists afterwards if you have any further questions. That goes for all of you here today. Thank you so much for joining us here this afternoon. We invite you to a cocktail on the other side. So it's above committee room 2. We'll have a cocktail in the terrace area up there. We invite you to come share a drink with us and to have something short to eat. I'd now like to call up the EU that's here, or members of the EU delegation that's here, to come up on stage, as well as Dr. Rose Omari to come and take a photo with us on stage. Thank you very much again to everybody for coming here this afternoon.
Take part in the energy conversations. Can I have a copy of the program? VRA is launching a new product, and you want to be part of that historic event. Can I just have a look at this and read off tomorrow's program? Please keep the music down. Let's get our messages out first. So tomorrow we start at 9 o'clock, and VRA Chief Executive will be speaking. We have the special guest of honor, Minister of State at the Energy Ministry, to be here. We have a presentation on the VRA value-added services, and we'll be launching something new with VRA and touring the energy companies at the exhibition by all of you who are here. Later on in the morning, we'll be having a renewable energy discussion on enhancing Ghana's power sector value chain solutions for reliable, affordable, and clean energy from generation to distribution. We'll be looking at boosting industrial growth and strengthening value chains through investing in renewable energy. There'll be a panel discussion there. And after lunch, we'll be going straight into the entrepreneurship pitch competition. It was really exciting and thrilling and enthralling last year. And this year, it promises to be even better. So the pitch competition will take us to the end of the day. There'll be networking as well. And while the pitch competition is going on, there'll be a side event, a knowledge dissemination workshop on the European Union deforestation regulations for cocoa processors in Ghana, something that we really want to be part of. There will be an overview of the European Union deforestation regulation and the impact of that particular regulation on Ghana's cocoa sector. There will be an open floor for questions from participants, and we'll wrap everything up nicely around about 4:30 for that. And the pitch competition should also end by 4:30 tomorrow. So a lot to look forward to. VRA, energy, renewable energy, clean energy, green energy. And then we have the entrepreneurship pitch competition, as well as the European Union deforestation regulations for cocoa processors in Ghana. I thank you very much. Thank you all for making day 2 a success. And we're looking forward to the last part of our event, which is day 3. Have a safe journey home. Good evening. If you're going, safe journey. But we have a cocktail upstairs.